Hey guys, I'm Ubiru and welcome back to the conflict of Brawl on the Broadside. So as before, this series will showcase some of the best ship-on-ship combat that I've seen in World of Warships, from the 7-kill wonders to the magazine detonations. Today we have a replay sent in by TierCTrafficPolice in his Fletcher Tier 9 American Destroyer. The replay starts off quite slow, but I was stuck in my chair from the middle onwards. Fantastic, breathtaking replay. So the American Destroyers in World of Warships aren't really well known for their torpedo capabilities. But the Tier 9 Fletcher is a step up in that category. 10.5 kilometer maximum distance for torpedoes that go up to 66 knots in speed, which pushes towards the fastest torpedoes in the game. Good torpedo capability mixed with the great American gun firepower makes the Fletcher a serious ship to contend with. So this is Tier C in a largely mixed game. It has some Tier 6s, Tier 7s, 8s and 9s. So in this game the Clevelands and the New Mexico and the Fuso have a big disadvantage. Tier C's team has 1 carrier, 4 battleships, 5 cruisers and 2 destroyers, while the other team has 1 carrier, 3 battleships, 5 cruisers and 3 destroyers. So they have the destroyer advantage and Tier C's team has the battleship advantage. So this is Ocean Standard Battle, so Tier C really has to think about working as a team. On the Ocean map it's very dependent on how your team works as a team, probably more so than other maps. There are no obstacles on this map, it's just a plain landscape of water. And you have to use destroyers effectively to lay down smoke to give your team cover. So far Tier C is going towards the middle of the map, which is usually a good idea to do with the destroyers at the start of the game on this map, to lay down some smoke and give your team some cover. So now that Tier C is pushing towards the middle of the map, he spotted an Amagi and 2 Clevelands from about 15 kilometers away. Now the concealment rating of the Fletcher is very good, as with most destroyers in the game, so it will take at least an extra 10 kilometers for him to be spotted. So now he's targeting the Miyoko at 12 kilometers. The maximum torpedo range of these torpedoes is 10.5 kilometers, but the Miyoko on the Ocean map can very easily, with its very high speed, turn this way, and you never know, with the Fletcher you might get a hit. So the average damage of the Fletcher's torpedoes are very high. They are also some of the fastest torpedoes in the game at 66 knots. So now he's pushing towards the western side of the map, trying to assist his team, but there is some planes in front of him, so of course he has to disable his anti-air capability to hopefully not get spotted. The air detectability range is far less than the surface detectability range. So most of the enemy ships are on the southernmost point of the map, with a couple on the eastern side, and almost all of his team are on the west side. So the torpedoes are coming in now to the Miyoko. The Miyoko did turn this way, but he has seen the torpedoes incoming, and he has turned right to avoid them. And unfortunately they have just gone out of range. If he didn't change his course, then he probably would have been hit. So now Tier C is the frontmost ship in his fleet. He's going towards to try and spot the enemies, maybe trying to do some bait and run tactics. Now bait and run tactics usually relies upon you firing at enemies from long distance and coercing them, getting them to fire at you. Now if enemies fire at a destroyer, because they have very good maneuverability, the shots are very easy to avoid. Now he's considering whether or not to fire at the ships in front of him. There's a Cleveland there, Kitakami as well, which this is 0.3.1. I have to mention the Kitakami no longer exists in this game. Mahan there, and some other destroyers as well. So he's firing a couple of spreads into a very densely compact area of enemy ships, mainly focused at the Cleveland. So if you guys didn't know, the Kitakami was a ship in 0.3.1 closed beta and below, which was a gimmicky ship that was released as a premium ship, the premium Tier 8 down the Japanese line, which gave you the opportunity of firing 40 torpedoes at any one time. Now 40 torpedoes seems like a massive amount, yeah, really good, but the ship had a massive disadvantage of initially having no smoke, and, well, being a cruiser, it was very fast, very low profile, but it had no armor, and of course the Kitakami was killed very quickly, and of course they removed it because it was too incapable. So the torpedoes are heading towards the enemy ships, but the Cleveland has seen them, and he's moved to avoid them. Now, not being 4.0, Tier C doesn't have the opportunity to use the speed perk. He's limited, unfortunately, to just the smoke, but in this version of the game, the smoke lasts for 40 seconds instead of 20 seconds. So the Amagi is there at 9.6 kilometers. The Amagi is very renowned for having very poor turning circle radius, very low profile, very powerful battleship, but it can be susceptible to damage from torpedoes. So most of the enemies have been forced into the bottom left corner of the map, so that leaves most of the enemy team partially surrounded. But in terms of the game, Tier C's team is losing from 2 kills to 1. He's firing 2 spreads of 5 at the Amagi at 9 kilometers. Maybe they'll hit. You will notice there's a smoke pile in front of him, so that means there's an enemy destroyer just in front of his allies. but not an immediate threat. So he's going to follow the torpedoes to hopefully hit the Amagi. They are coming in very quickly, but the Amagi is a quite fast battleship, leveling off at around 30 knots. So the wait time, unfortunately, for the Fletcher's torpedoes is quite long. It's about 1.5 minutes, which does seem quite long, but this is a tier 9 match, and when they hit, they can do a substantial amount of potential damage. So the torpedoes are now coming into the Amagi. They're coming in very quickly at 66 knots. The first spread missed, unfortunately. The second one... oh, unfortunately, the speed of the Amagi rendered the torpedo spread a miss. Now, the gun range of the Fletcher is quite good. Most American destroyers in this game have at least sort of around 12 kilometers, and the Fletcher has 12.5 kilometers. The Myoko is renowned for going at a very good top speed of around 36 knots. So TierC is thinking about that just as he's preparing to fire his torpedoes. 5 seconds to go, and then the second spread is 5 seconds apart as well. So he's firing the first one just in front of the Myoko, just in case he outspeeds the torpedoes. Now the Myoko, with very fast cruisers in the game, they can sort of fool the destroyers into thinking they're going one direction with the white marker. Very simple, you use the cruiser, you reduce speed when you see a destroyer. The destroyer then fires the torpedoes, reducing the angle of the white marker because the ship has reduced speed, and the cruiser then increases speed as the torpedoes come in, and the torpedoes will easily miss. So TierC has increased the torpedo spread there a bit further right to hopefully hit the Myoko. It does seem now that the Myoko's speed has decreased and the torpedoes are heading towards the Amagi. Now the Amagi came out of nowhere, he was the one he was targeting earlier, but he is closer distance now, so the chance of hitting the Amagi is quite high. So the torpedoes are now heading towards the Amagi. The Sims has now revealed himself, so the torpedoes have now hit the Amagi 4 times torpedoes and 4 times the inducing of flooding. And with the flooding damage caused, managed to sink the Amagi. So TierC managed to take down an Amagi there with nearly full health. So that's one battleship down, and now there's a Sims in front of TierC that he needs to take care of. Now the Sims is a very fast ship, a very good maneuverability ship, and he does have good concealment. Now he is hiding currently in a pot of smoke that he put down, and TierC here is just spraying into the smoke to hopefully try and get some shots. By firing here though, is announcing his location to the enemy ships. So the Myoko, as you saw a second ago, did fire some shots at TierC. Now TierC is firing one spread of torpedoes into the smoke to hopefully get the reversing Sims. It's kind of hard to say whether or not the torpedoes will hit. Destroyers are very small targets, and with torpedoes, they're usually a very hard target to hit. So we fire the torpedoes at the Sims as a sort of fire and forget weapon. Maybe they'll hit, maybe they won't. So now there's the Baltimore at 11.5 kilometers away. Now the Baltimore is renowned for having a very good DPM and having the heal ability, which is unique across the high-tiered cruisers, which are the same as the battleships. The Baltimore is a very formidable ship, and you have to be very cautious playing a destroyer around them. So the smoke around the Sims is now dissipated, we can now see him. The torpedoes unfortunately missed. He only has 600 health left, going to fire one salvo, hopefully he'll hit him just in time, but unfortunately the Myoko next to him managed to finish him off. So the Baltimore is back over there, 10 kilometers away, and he just set the Baltimore on fire. Now the Baltimore, same as many of the other big ships in the game, can take a lot of duration damage with high explosive shells. Now he's just firing over and over again. The reload time of the Fletcher is very good. It's around 4-second reload. Shots going in, albeit for only a minor amount of damage, but the damage does accumulate in the Fletcher. There's also a few allies behind him shooting the Baltimore as well. Now the Baltimore is trying to get away. He has quite good top speed and fairly good maneuverability, but the main highlight of the Baltimore is its capability in terms of DPM. So the Baltimore is getting away, getting out of TierC's gun range, and now the Amagi is getting closer and closer to his gun range. So the Amagi is clearly in the gun range here, and he's nearly within torpedo range. So TierC also has smoke at his disposal as well, if necessary. Now this is 0.3.1, and in that version of the game, smoke in destroyers lasted for 40 seconds instead of 20 seconds now. So TierC is pushing up to the Amagi now, forgetting about the Baltimore altogether. There are lots and lots of allies, very compact, just behind him, which I think is a pretty risky play, having too many allies in one location. If the enemy fires one salvo, especially the Amagi with its very powerful guns, it can very easily miss one ship and hit the ship next to it and do a lot of damage. And now he's within torpedo range. So TierC is getting his torpedoes ready, lining them up, getting them ready round the corner. 2x5 torpedoes, which have an average damage of around 20,000 damage. So the Amagi does struggle with its turning circle radius. Back in 0.3.1, it was one of the worst in the game with many of the other Japanese big ships. So after he fired his 2 spreads of 5 torpedoes, he's going to play Silent Assassin, get in there, get close, see how the torpedoes affect him, and hopefully the reload time of the torpedoes will replenish and he can fire torpedoes again. So by being in this location, TierC isn't announcing himself yet, he's not within spotting range, but of course he is spotting the Amagi for the team. So he's getting closer and closer now, the 7.5 kilometers where the Amagi is got his guns facing elsewhere, so you can tell TierC is not being spotted. The torpedoes are now spreading out in an outward motion, so hopefully at least a couple of them will hit the target. Now TierC has noticed that the torpedoes will likely miss, so he's going to pop smoke and fire his main guns to hopefully set the target on fire, and wait 30 seconds for the torpedoes to be up so we can finish off the Amagi. The Amagi's firing one salvo at him, just skim the front, no damage at all, and he has to wait 30 seconds for his guns to reload. So in this respect, the only way the Amagi can kill TierC is with secondary batteries, but TierC isn't even spotted. He's within spotting range, yes, but the smoke cloud around him is negating all of that. So torpedoes have now reloaded, still firing main guns, and now getting ready to fire those torpedoes and hopefully do a devastating blow on this Amagi. This Amagi has 49,000 health left, so the only way of killing it, feasibly, is with allied support or with torpedoes. So set him on fire again there, 32 hits in a row, and he's getting ready to fire torpedoes. So this time he's deviating a little bit from the white marker. The white marker is only sort of an idea of where to shoot, but it's always good to deviate. You see the Amagi is hitting the edge of the map there, so he's stationary. There's nothing he can do. The Amagi's trying to turn right here. Bad decision. And the torpedoes will hit. And there we are. 30 damage plus 10,000 damage, 40,000 damage. Second spread's going in. Finished him off. Devastating strike. Killed a nearly full health Amagi at 50,000 health. So now that all the enemies are cleared in this location, he has to think about going back to defend the cap. Now the cap is swarmed by enemies and allies as well, but the enemies are trying to push into the cap and ensure the victory. So far in this game, TierC has done fantastically well. He's got 10 torpedo hits. He induced flooding 8 times, killed 2 ships, 2 critical damage hits, 58 hits and 2 setting on fire. So in terms of the game, you can see here they still have the Iowa and the Baltimore, the very formidable ships on their team. And on TierC's team, he has an Ibuki and a Fletcher, and unfortunately no big cruisers or battleships. The enemy team has a Kitakami, which is renowned for being a very bad ship, but it can be used quite well against densely packed enemies, which of course TierC's team currently is. So now that he's pushing back, he's going side onto an Iowa. Now, the Iowa is the biggest and most formidable ship left on their team, and he has nearly full health, 65,000 health. With the payload of the Iowa, it's a very, very scary ship, even to small ships such as the Fletcher. So he's waiting his time. He noticed there are some allies on the right flank. He can't really overextend. He has to analyse where the Iowa is going. He really kept in mind here his allies on his right. If he put them to the right side, then who knows? The long-range torpedoes in the Fletcher can do a lot of damage to any target. So he's fired that spread of torpedoes and they're heading towards the Baltimore and the Kitakami. And he's playing very silent assassin, pushing behind this Iowa, utilising his very good concealment rating. He hasn't been spotted yet, even at 6 kilometers. And now TierC has popped his smoke, to further increase the concealment rating of the Fletcher. So now that he's popped smoke, he's now utilising this opportunity to fire his main guns at the Iowa. Knocked out a secondary gun there, doing some minor damage, yes. The Iowa is a very formidable, very well-armoured ship, but you can accumulate a lot of high explosive damage and fire damage if you continually fire high explosive shells. So now he's changing his fire away from the Iowa and focusing more on the Kitakami. Now the Kitakami is a very soft ship, very easy to kill if you get some hits, but it's very low profile. You need to be very accurate with your shots. There we are. And as you can see here, TierC is quite consistently getting 600 damage hits. Now the Baltimore is very low, 1,500 damage left. He's taking fire damage. Now this is an opportunity for TierC to get the kill, firing one salvo into the Baltimore, and with 4 damage left, TierC managed to get the kill. Now you all notice the alarm. Torpedoes are coming in, and they're coming in from the Kitakami. You can tell by how many torpedoes there are. The Kitakami has 20 torpedoes per side. They do have a lot of potential damage, and they can go very fast. So he utilised this situation. He's getting between the 2 torpedo spreads, and he's fired his torpedoes as well towards the enemy Kitakami. Citadel hit there. And another massive hit as well. The Kitakami is very low, and with a very fast reload time of the Fletcher's guns, he can hopefully kill the ship very quickly. So shots going in again. 3,000 damage that time with a Fletcher with its very small guns. That's a massive amount of damage. Another Citadel hit, and he finished him off. So the Farragut is not in a good position. He got killed with a torpedo, not to mention it defended the base. Now most of his allies behind him are struggling to survive. There's only him left and another cruiser. And the Iowa is there. The Iowa hit TierC there in the rear, knocked out his steering gear, and TierC had to use his damage control party to stop that. And now's the time to focus on the Mahan. The Mahan has 3,000 health left, but now his engine's been knocked out again. So shots going in to the front for 1,200 damage. Going to fire a second salvo. In they go. Unfortunately, the second one missed. Third one going in. And he finished him off. So far in this game, he's got 6 kills. There's 3 enemy ships left. A cruiser, a carrier, and the Iowa. So now he's laying some fire onto the enemy Hiryu, the enemy carrier. Maybe he can take him out, and the Cleveland as well. Now the Cleveland is the bigger threat, of course. The Cleveland currently isn't focusing on TierC, fortunately. He's focusing on the allied cruiser. So now that torpedoes have reloaded, he has this opportunity to fire 2 spreads of torpedoes at the Cleveland. So TierC has popped his smoke, and now he's firing amongst the smoke. He's set the Cleveland on fire, but now he's noticed he's taking some damage, some secondary battery damage from the Iowa. Now torpedoes are heading towards the Cleveland, going in very fast. Cleveland has no chance here. First one going in, second one as well for up to 25,000 damage and another devastating strike, not to mention a high caliber and a Confederate medal. So now there's only 2 ships on 2 ships in this game, the Iowa and the carrier versus a cruiser and a Fletcher. Torpedoes have 30 seconds to reload. Smoke is just about to go off, so he's going to lose that very important concealment bonus. So he fired 1 shot into the carrier there for 2,500 damage, and the carrier has now gone invisible. So now he has to think about going for the ship that is visible, which, surprisingly enough, is right behind him. Now, the Iowa cannot see him just yet. Now, this is the interesting part. Smoke has gone off for the ship, but he still remains hidden. So he's firing a couple of his main guns. In this situation, the Iowa cannot see him, and his guns are facing a full side onto the allied ship. So torpedoes are ready now, and this is when the Iowa sees TierC. TierC knows he's a massive threat. 1 salvo can very easily rip through the Fletcher and kill him very quickly. So he needs to think about moving very quickly around the ship. He's trying to kite it, turn a full turn left, firing torpedoes, first salvo in, scrape the back of the ship, 27,000 damage, 3 torpedo hits, and ensured the kill. So now there's only 1 ship left, but if you look at the timer, 1 minute 40 seconds. So now it's just a cruiser and a destroyer versus a nearly full health carrier. Now the Hiryu doesn't have the best armor in the game, it doesn't have the best speed in the game, but it can withstand quite a lot of punishment. It does have 34,000 health at the moment and a 45,000 health maximum. So far in this game, TierC has got 8 kills. Now this is a really sticky situation. TierC needs to kill the enemy carrier in having any chance of winning this game. And he's firing over and over again to try and pelt the carrier into submission. But the problem with the destroyer guns is, yes, they do fire very fast, yes, they have a very good accuracy, but they're not very powerful. Only a minute left. TierC has carried this game, he's done a fantastic job, but he needs to kill this ship. TierC has his torpedoes ready in about 8 seconds. So maybe the speed of the torpedoes will be enough to finish off the Hiryu, finish off the enemy carrier, and win the game for the team. So now's the time for torpedoes. Torpedoes have reloaded, and now's the only opportunity, really, to kill this guy within 27 seconds. So he's firing both of them in very quick succession. They're very well aimed. 1,200 damage there. He's got to kill this guy. 1 torpedo hit will finish this guy off. 17,000 health left. Planes flying everywhere. This guy has got to die. 17 seconds left of time. The cruiser has to do something to finish off this guy. Torpedoes are coming into TierC now. Unfortunately, he will take 1 hit, and unfortunately, he was knocked out. But the torpedoes are still going. They're going in very fast. The cruiser still has the opportunity to kill this guy. 4 seconds left. 5.5 kilometers away. Come on, the torpedoes have to hit anytime soon. Come on! Unfortunately, despite all the hard work of TierC in that match, the Hiryu wasn't killed. It had around 10,000 health left, and the gap between the torpedoes and the ship was tiny. Fantastic game to TierC, well played. Now this just draws into the game whether or not the cruiser on his team could have done a better job. Now the cruiser was miles away. If the cruiser was closer to the battle, closer to where the real action was, then maybe TierC might have won the game. So in that fantastic game, TierC accumulated nearly 400,000 credits, 2,200 experience, 110 free experience, 2 devastating strikes, a Confederate and high caliber medal. He got nearly 200 hits on target, 16 torpedoes, 2 planes shot down, 7 critical hits, 8 ships destroyed, 6 targets set on fire. He induced flooding 14 times, 3 citadel hits, and defended the base 6 times. It's a massive shame this game was a draw if only the cruiser on his team performed a bit better. So Tier C in his team, as you can see, got 2,200 free experience in this game, well above any other person in that entire match. And in terms of damage, which is outstanding. Armor-piercing shots of 8,000 damage, high explosive shots of 41,000 damage, target set on fire 4,300, flooding induced 1,300, and torpedo damage 162,000 damage. Wow! Tier C accumulated over 210,000 damage in this Tier 9 game. So this has been the Conflict, the Brawl and the Broadside. Thank you very much to Tier C for that amazing replay. So if you guys have any replays you want to send in for me to have a look at, and potentially have in this series, then by all means send them to ubiru0@gmail.com. So thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.